Hey guys, if you haven't realized it, the world is on the internet. The internet is everywhere, which means your church needs to be on the internet. But more importantly, your church needs to be effective on the internet. Okay. And it all starts with your church's website. And that's what we're going to talk about today with Pastor Brandon Cox. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of CTA Live. I am your host, Dave Curley, and in case you're not sure what's going on here, CTA Live is the live podcast for Church Training Academy. And Church Training Academy is a website where we all learn how to use and exploit media and technology in order to fulfill the gospel. And with me, as always, is my fantastic co-host and my friend and my brother and my partner, Mr. Justin Nava. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Dave? What's up, guys? I'm glad to be here. This is what is second to last show of the year.
I think that's right.
And this is, I know I say this some weeks, a lot of weeks, maybe every week, but this is my favorite show so far.
Well, that's good. That's good. And it's probably because of Brandon and he's your hero and all this sort of stuff. I thought you were going to be in the interview and stuff. I kept looking at your little icon thumbnail thing, and you had big smiles on your face, and I was like, he's going to start giggling like a little girl in a minute.
Giggling, yes, like a little girl. Thankfully, I was able to hold that back.
Hey, we have a surprise for you guys. For what it's worth, if you don't know this, Justin and I have never actually met in real life. We've never shaken hands, we've never high-fived, never fist bumped, never so much as looked each other up and down in a judgmental manner. Never laid eyes on each other in the real world, and all that's getting ready to change. What is happening here in a week, 10 days, 9 days,
in a couple of days?
Yeah.
We're actually going to meet. For those of you young people that don't understand, we're going to meet IRL. Is what we're gonna do. Dave has family in South Texas, and I'll be traveling up to Houston from Souther, Texas, and so I'm actually gonna pass him on my way. And so he's gonna take his camera, I'm gonna take my phone, and we're gonna have a third party holding a camera, and we're gonna do a super cheesy. We're gonna go meet in a field. We're gonna run towards each other in slow motion.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna finally see how tall Dave is, because he could, based on his setup, he could either be 6'11" or 4'10". I'm not sure yet, but I'll finally figure out who's taller.
That's funny. Yeah, I can't tell how tall you are either.
That's right. So we're finally going to figure out who's taller.
That's right.
That's the big question everyone's been asking.
Yes, and we are going to do a few short videos there. You guys are going to be able to see it. We're probably not going to live stream us meeting simply because we're doing it with multiple cameras. We want to catch his view, my view, me standing there at the window, waiting for him. He's here. That's all that sort of stuff.
His is gonna be blue tinted and snowing as he leaves the car. And mine's gonna be orange tinted with palm trees out, and it's hot, and I'm gonna have my Hawaiian shirt, and we're gonna drive, and we're gonna meet in the middle.
That's right. It's gonna be really cool. We're really looking forward to it. So, all right, let's get into our discussion with Mr. Brandon Cox. Guys, I hope you find this useful. Justin and I were furiously taking notes, and we want to share this with y'all because there's a lot of really, really good information in there. Brandon Cox has been a pastor for 20 years. He served churches of every size, from small church of 35 to, being on staff at Saddleback. Yeah, with over 20,000 people. It's huge. He's now 6 years into planning Grace Hills Church in Northwest Arkansas, and they've grown from 2 families to over 450 people every weekend. Brandon also has a background in social media and marketing. Strange bedfellows, pastoring, social media. He's helped relaunch Pastor Rick Warren's Ministry Toolbox and Pastors.com, as well as written a book called Rewired, which is all about how the church can embrace social media and spread the good news further and faster than ever before. And he's married to Angie for 20 years, and they live with their 3 kids in Centerton, Arkansas. Brandon Cox, thank you, my brother, so much for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to hang out with us.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm honored, excited, and happy to be here.
So, married 20 years?
Yep, 20 years this year.
Fantastic. We just celebrated 23 ourselves.
Awesome.
My wife and I, not me and Justin. Justin and I are not married. Justin,
That's good.
I'm married. Somebody else.
Yeah, not to be confused. Don't confuse. Let's not get that out at all confused.
Could be a whole nother podcast.
Right. Brandon, the reason why I wanted you to come on here is because you are one of my personal heroes. the fact that you're a pastor and you're teaching leadership, you're helping other ministries. And for me personally, your church's website has been on the Pro Church Tools top church website list, I believe 2 years that I know of, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
And so I really want to kind of extract, how are you doing that? Tell me what is your website strategy going into forming the Grace Hills website? How old is it, and kind of how did you plan to what kind of strategy did you put behind it for visitors to find your church?
Sure. Well, for one thing, I started designing church websites way back in '98. I was using Macromedia Dreamweaver, which is now,
Dreamweaver. Did you use
yeah.
Cold Fusion?
No, my brother is a Cold Fusion developer, but
Nice. It's still around?
yeah, still is. It's improving actually. But anyways,
Awesome.
so started designing way back then when everything was about just, fill the website with as much information as you can. If you, put your bulletin on there, put your pictures of your cemetery on there, whatever, just everything about your church, put it on the web. And that was the mentality. About 7 or 8 years ago, I just sort of had this shift where I started reading things about UX design, user experience design, and understanding that I was designing church websites for the church, and that's not really who a church website should be for.
Right.
So strategy-wise, everything just shifted for us, and it really affected everything we did as a church. So our Sunday bulletin has, about this much space for announcements. All the rest of it is for a first-time guest. Our church website, you have to click a couple of times to get into the things that are for church members. We really wanted the front and center to be for potential guests and everything about the site to be for potential guests. And we focused a lot on social, on SEO, search engine optimization, climbing Google as fast as we could. We focused on social integration with Facebook. So we just really tried to keep it simple and focused on people that weren't connected to a church yet. So that's kind of the big strategy, is design the site for people that are not in church yet.
The people that are not in church or non-Christians. You're talking generally Christians, people that just haven't found their place yet.
Well, for us, it's both, because we live in an area where people are moving in like crazy. They're coming from every direction. And so we wanted to be able to reach people that were moving to the area looking for a church, but also people that just would not connect with a traditional church in our area. And we're not like radical or crazy or anything, but there's a good, strong presence here of churches that kind of do traditional church really well. And we thank God for them. But we wanted to be able to have a presence for people that were searching or seeking for church, but may not fit into the traditional model of Bible Belt Arkansas church culture.
Right. Okay. You said that one of the things that you focused on was getting ranked in Google and climbing the SEO ladder and stuff. Keyword stacking and all this kind of stuff doesn't work anymore. And so what was your strategy behind doing that to being relevant? That's actually something that my pastor and I are working on between YouTube and Google in general as well.
Yeah. Well, while keyword stacking or stuffing doesn't work as well anymore, there are these basic factors like the heading tags, the title tag, the image alt tags, those kinds of things that are sort of on-page factors. We just went through our website and tried to think like someone moving into the area looking for, like we tried to think of a family moving to our area that had kids that may or may not have a church background, but they're thinking about church. They're maybe looking for a church. What are they going to look for? And I don't think that anyone's going to search for Grace Hills Church Kids Ministry. What they might search for is Best Kids Ministry in Northwest Arkansas. So we actually title our pages accordingly. So it's not titled Grace Hills Church Kids Ministry. It's titled Great Kids Ministry in Northwest Arkansas - Grace Hills Church. So those are sort of the on-page factors that we focused on. Tried to do good internal linking and use, a good my name. The word just slipped my mind. The robots text files, all those kinds of things that are just serving our site up to search engines. And then we started looking for external link backlinks. So we joined Chamber of Commerce and looked at local government websites and local community sites, did some advertising on local news sites, anything we could do to get backlinks from local sites that were trusted. That was another big factor for us. And then we also just did some SEO research. And I use a little tool called kwfinder.com that kind of, you type in like churches in Northwest Arkansas and hit enter, and it says, hey, 900 people a month are searching for that. Okay, let's go for it. But if we typed in, Bentonville churches, maybe only 10 people are searching for that. So, okay, we're not going to worry about that. So we just really went after those keywords that people were using to try to find a church.
That's cool. That's cool. What was it? KW Finder, you said?
kwfinder.com.
Okay, keyword finder, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of tools out there. It's more affordable and to me a little easier to use. It's like $12, $13 a month as opposed to 30 to 50 for other tools.
So that was pretty high level up there as far as SEO. Most churches are not thinking that high level,
Right.
but there is a place to start, right? You can't just go out and expect to run a marathon tomorrow, especially if you look like me. But you can start taking baby steps and say, okay, let's get the title tags figured out. Let's get the meta description. And then next week we'll get the internal linking, and then next week we'll find one place to backlink out. It's kind of like a website is saying, hey, go check these guys out. And Google sees that almost like a referral, like, okay, these guys actually mean something. They're just not a nobody, especially if you get those higher authority sites like your local news or other places. Those places count a little bit more to Google. I want to shift to the design here and actually look at your homepage because you have something unique that a lot of churches still haven't caught on to. And that is a very visitor focused kind of tagline, I guess, your header here. So when you go to gracehillschurch.com, your header and your tagline are very visitor centric. So right off the bat, we're saving a seat for you. And I'll just read this for the podcast listeners. We don't care how you're dressed, how many tattoos you have, or what candidate you voted for. We're a church full of broken and perfect people with every kind of story imaginable, and we're saving a seat for you. So that is very different from what you find on most churches. Most churches, we're a discipleship-focused church. We believe in this, or our God is good. But you're very visitor focused. Was that the first thing you workshopped, was it a journey to get to kind of where you landed now with we're saving a seat for you?
Yeah, for us, it's kind of been that way from day one. We had to make a decision early on. And for other pastors and church leaders, I would urge you to make this decision. It's a tough one. We can have a church website that impresses the church and says to other church leaders, we are what you think we should be. We're focused on discipleship. We believe the Bible, those kinds of things. You can land on us and know that we're the kind of church you would recommend and whatnot. But we had to decide that just wasn't who we were looking to reach. So instead, we focused on who we wanted to reach. Now, we believe the Bible, we do discipleship, we do all that stuff, but that's not what we wanted to be front and center. Because while people will argue back and forth over whether the church is producing more consumers or whatnot, our belief is we reach people who are consumers. We turn them into disciples, but you reach them as consumers. So that we just focused on that. What is the person who is out there that's a consumer of things? What are they going to be looking for in terms of a church?
And by consumers, you're talking about folks that are looking for a church with the quote unquote, what can they offer me mentality, as opposed to how I can serve, correct?
Well, sort of, yes. But I'm actually thinking, when I say consumers, I'm thinking the general public that has been trained to think a certain way by all the marketing messages they receive. So whether they intend to be or not, everyone out there that we might reach thinks like a consumer. So that's what I'm thinking. It's not so much that we want to attract people with things. It's that we want to let them know this is a place where you, as a person who lives in the world and may or may not be familiar with the church, this is a place where you're going to be welcome. You're the person we want. And I should even throw in there that that helps us to clarify who we are for people that are looking for a church that isn't who we are. The whole "we save a seat for you," that phrase, actually, we started using that because we met in a movie theater. And I would often say, meeting in a movie theater helps us because it helps us to reach people that wouldn't necessarily attend a traditional church. But it also helps us in that it sort of keeps away people who have these high expectations of the kind of traditional church they're looking for. And it just let the public know we're here for people that, don't necessarily connect in a traditional setting.
What kind of battles did you have to face? Because I see, I've worked with a lot of clients that begin that path of, we are going to make a visitor-centric website that may require a few more clicks for a member to find what they need, but the primary focus is to use it as a landing point for visitors to learn about the church, how they would fit into the church, and how they can get to the church.
Yeah.
But after a couple of weeks of putting that in there, the pressure sets in. This is not what we want. This is not making people happy. I like to say it's better for a member to spend 5 minutes to find something than a visitor to take 5 seconds to find something.
Yeah.
But that pressure really just kind of gets on the volunteer designer or the receptionist who's trying to do this strategy. How much pressure did you find that, or do you have a way to kind of cast that vision more so the church can buy in and not get so frustrated?
Sure. For me, it's a discipleship problem. And what I mean by that is, it's a matter of training our church over time that if we say we're outward focused, we have to live that somehow. If we're here as a beacon and a lighthouse for a lost world, well, then that's who we're here for. And so over time, I think you have to be very intentional. You can make those cosmetic changes, and they're not going to sit well unless you've laid the groundwork. And for us, the groundwork are things like when we have our membership class, we go through, here's what it means to be a member, here's our vision, our values, here's the covenant that we have, and you come all the way down to the point of maybe signing that and becoming a member. And we stop the class and we go, hey, before anyone signs this, the last thing you need to know is that when you sign our membership covenant, that's the moment it stops being about what you want or need. You join, we turn outward together, and we go looking for more lost people. We've said that every single time we offer that class for the last 6 years, to the point that people sort of repeat it almost with a chuckle because they've heard it so much. So, in other words, I think it's a long-term training the church to think outwardly like missionaries, as opposed to, and we even let people know sometimes. They'll say, well, I missed this event. I didn't know about it. I'm not in the loop. I think there should be more communication about these internal things. And we just train people to say, yeah, I'm sorry, we do let people down in that way sometimes. And we know that, but it's a choice we're willing to make because the win is we get to spend more time focusing on communicating with lost people. So if you want to stay in the loop, get in our Facebook group or get on our newsletter. Make sure you're getting those things because we're not going to talk about those smaller things from the stage or on our website and that kind of thing. So it's just training over time.
Do you find that easier as from starting from scratch, planting a church, with 2 families and growing that culture and that mindset? Do you find it easier, or have you in the past, have you run up against this entrenched, the people with the checkbooks are the ones that want it to stay like it was 47 years ago?
I will say it's definitely been easier in a church plant because we've gotten to use the same cultural language from day one. And so everyone coming in hears it and sort of embraces it or not. I think that a leader, one of the primary responsibilities of a leader is culture creation or culture shaping. And so from a leadership standpoint, I think it's a matter of understanding how do I change the culture of a church if it's not a healthy one? And that comes by loving people, listening to them, and it comes through language. So, in a setting, for example, where I served a previous church that was much more traditional, and it was the kind of church that had a lot of business meetings, committees, votes on all kinds of things. And over time, I just sort of took time to build new language in, said, we're not going to have business meetings anymore. We're going to call them family meetings because that's what they really are. It's the family getting together. And, and over time, we were able to do those less often. We were able to vote on fewer things. And then little tweaks that we would make, like in the finance report that got handed out, said, we don't have expenses anymore. They're investments. Okay. So it's not an expense. It's not costing us money. We're investing money in the harvest, So just little tweaks like that language wise help to create a new culture. Along the way, when people did get upset, man, what's happened to my music? What's happened to my whatever, whatever it is it's kind of making them feel that way. I think our response is usually defensive, hey, I've got my theology and let me sort of set you straight. But a lot of times I think people just want to be listened to and validated. So, I think a better response is to say, I hear you and I'm sorry. I know that's dear to your heart and it's hard to let that go. So I hear where you're coming from. Would you mind if I share with you my reasoning? And here's where we're going. And I really want us to reach some lost people and maybe even a story, so-and-so who came to be part of our church and they go, yeah. Well, they came because of this language that we're using. And so if you can just sort of help me to embrace this and sort of just loving them and listening to them along the way goes much better than sort of steamrolling everything and just wrecking a church, trying to kill it and revive it. So.
Right. No, I think you're right. I think that's good. A mark of good leadership is doing that. You have a direction, and you're gently bringing people along instead of, like you said, steamrolling. And that's something that I'm really impressed with our new pastor. Is that's his mentality. He came in and just sort of sat back and started asking questions and listening and watching, and then started making little tweaks here and there and started bringing new ideas and new directions and stuff online, which is really good.
I do have one more question though about Grace Hill's website. To bring it back to that is the blog. The Grace Hills blog is very unique because, again, a lot of church websites that I see, a lot of pastors, they use their blog as a second or as a platform for their second or third sermon of the week. Yeah. So I know a lot of pastors say, well, we're going to cut Sunday night, but you read our blog and we'll have another sermon there. Or pastors will write, respectively, what's on their heart. But Grace Hills is very much the opposite. And if you want proof, I'm looking at one blog here that says the title is, "What do Buddy the Elf, Hot Cocoa, and Ugly Christmas Sweaters have in common?" That's obviously not a sermon so much. And tell me, what results are you getting with your blog? What's your strategy? What's your end goal with it? And where have you found success? Because I know you do a lot of blog coaching too. So kind of walk me through Grace Hill's blog strategy.
Well, to me, a church's blog has the potential basically to supply great content for people. That's the way I think of it. Is I want to be able to put a blog post on our church website that, people share news stories all the time. Members of my church, they're sharing from CNN or Fox News, and those two people don't get along, so they're hitting each other with news links. Well, if I can give our people say an article about how singles can handle their money, or a story about a family that was put back together because of the gospel, or whatever. All of that I just see it as content that our people can share and can invite others to come and be part of Grace Hills by sharing that content. So that's my main goal with our blog. It's not to feed the church more. It's to give the church tools to share with others that aren't connected yet. So yeah, that's how I think of it.
That's pretty cool. Any advice for a pastor that wants to start a blog but doesn't really know what to do other than write a sermon?
Yeah, I think. My first piece of advice for pastors is you should blog, because it's a way of not wasting all the work you just put in. To me, a sermon is, take the average 35-minute sermon or 55, however many minutes you preach, and that's going to be a week's worth of blog posts. So what my wife Angie and I recently did, we launched a kind of a side site called walkhumble.com. And it's just basically our message broken into 5 pieces. And we tell people on Sunday, hey, subscribe to walkhumble.com and you can get little follow-up pieces to this. And we go a little, in depth into those 5 pieces of the message and sort of extends that. So I think any pastor, when you're done preparing your sermon, just chop it into 5 pieces and then elaborate on each one. That's for a more devotional style sermon, or excuse me, a more devotional style blog. I do think pastors can get into blogging about leadership, blogging about preaching, blogging about all kinds of things. But at the very least, that's going to be one of the things you're best at, is giving people, again, something valuable to share by breaking that sermon up. And that way, when the message is over on Sunday, you're not done yet with all the work you put in to the 35-minute sermon.
That's the same mindset, I guess, that we teach with using your live stream and the recordings of your service, is that, in the past, everything has been focused towards that, the end game is the Sunday morning event. And then you start your week over again. And we say the end game is the day before the Sunday morning event, because you're launching the conversation with the event on Sunday morning, and you're talking these concepts and stuff, and then you can use snippets from your recorded video. You can use quotes and things like that to continue the conversation throughout the week through social media. And I love the idea of doing it with a blog as well, and that. We're talking bits and pieces on social media, bits and pieces in a blog, bits and pieces in daily emails or what have you and stuff. And I think it's that, and you and I were talking about this before we started recording, that all these things, and that's why Church Training Academy is here. All these things that we do in the corporate world, all the marketing, all the using the technology to promote whatever the message is, 10, 4, and 2, drink, or 10, 2, and 4, drink more Dr. Pepper, that sort of a thing works. It works. It's why we all subscribe to Netflix. It's why we all go out and get Mountain Dew. It's why, we buy GoPro cameras and drink Red Bulls and everything else, and love Chick-fil-A. It's that marketing and stuff, and turning these tools and these mindsets towards the church makes sense, because, like you said, we're consumers. We consume what is out there. We listen to messages and we make decisions based on those messages. In this case, the product is a deep and abiding relationship with Christ.
Yeah. I think there's a great quote that I heard from John Piper years ago. It was just in conversation. He didn't say it was like to the public, but he was asked by another pastor about Twitter. He said, why are you using Twitter so much? And this goes back to when Twitter was really blowing up. And John Piper said, if there's a space out there where conversation's happening, I want to fill it with the glory of God. And I just loved that. That idea of, there's a space where conversation is happening. The church can show up or not. I mean, it's our choice. Get involved or stay out of it. If we stay out of it, we're just going to let the world go on without Jesus. So
that's right. I use that, not that quote, but that mindset when people are talking about Facebook. Facebook is just a cesspool of political crap, and everybody's yelling and hating each other and all this kind of stuff, and arguments and all that sort of stuff. And that's my response is, then the church needs to be feeding content into there. We need to. There is no reason. There's enough Christians on the planet that there is no reason why everybody's stream can't be filled with more inspiration and hope and love and camaraderie. That there's just no reason. We just have to feed into it. Don't run away from it. Don't be scared of it. Run to it with the gospel. It's the same thing with YouTube. Churches don't want to turn on comments for their YouTube videos and stuff. I say turn on the comments and deal with it. You're going to get cussed. You're going to get trolled. You're going to get people. Okay, that's the way it is. I mean, if you're having coffee with somebody and an atheist is sitting at the table next to you and doesn't like what you're talking about and decides to be a jerk about it, what are you going to do? And, I mean, you can't turn off the table next to you. You just handle it. So handle it.
Absolutely. And if you're going to learn how to love people, God's probably going to do that by putting people around you that are hard to love. So,
that's right.
Where can people find more of your content, more of your stuff? Where can people find you?
Quickest way is just go to brandonacox.com and everything else is linked to from there. So if you can land on that, you're good.
Brandon, thank you so much for taking your time to sit down with us and all that. And we really would like to have you back on the show. You've got your fingers in so many different places. There's, we didn't even talk about how you live inside my inbox every day. It seems, and I don't mean that from a negative standpoint. I mean, there's always another tool or another resource or something that you're sharing and stuff, and that's huge from a business standpoint, a ministry standpoint, a personal standpoint, all that sort of stuff. We ain't even talked about that stuff. I'd love to delve deep into that maybe next time. So thank you so much for just joining us today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's an honor. It's been fun.
Wow, that's a lot of really, really, really good information. Man. Thoughts. Give me your thoughts. We actually didn't discuss this after the recording, so give me your thoughts.
Yeah. So you go through a lot when you're actually in the thick of it. I know when I was part of the church, actually working at the church, not part of the church, I still am part of the church. But when I was actually on staff at the church, I fought a lot of those same battles. And our church is currently fighting similar ones where the someone well-meaning, noble desires that wants to see a certain ministry or a certain ideal or a certain object be seen on the church website that would appeal to the church and appease the church membership, but would not be attracting and in fact would be confusing in the message, trying to bring people into the fold. And that is a struggle that is going to be pretty much anything we do in the media sphere is going to be along those same lines. And so the way he presented it, it does take a little bit more planning. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to do this and you're going to like it. Kind of like he said, you can't ham fist people into just going your way.
Right.
It requires a lot of top down vision casting from the leadership. And Brandon hit the spot on, it's a culture shift of once you sign this covenant, it's not about you.
Yeah.
You're going to turn out with us and chase people. Not chase people, but turn out with us and
Chase
serve
them
others. And so I really, really like that. And the website is just one piece of that. And I think that was very encouraging. And I loved his stuff about the blog about, repurposing it in the written form.
Absolutely.
And we talk about it in the video, but in written form as well. People share those articles. So
they do.
Yeah. What did you think?
Well, they do. They share those articles. People consume. That's why you and I are doing the breadth of content that we're doing, is because people have their preferred method of consuming content. So, having the video, cutting it up into sections, and writing those sections out and kind of expounding on a few things here and there, as well as sectioning out these bits and then, like, say, putting them on Facebook and stuff. That just makes sense. And I was thinking about this mentality, and I don't want that to sound negative because it can. This mentality of doing this and such. It's not that. I guess it's a mindset of, well, there's always going to be that, well, we've never done it like that before. We've always done it like this, and that's, we're going to be fighting that, forever. But the mentality of, we want to have this on the website. We want to have this ministry up on the website. We want to have this ministry up on the website. Man, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there seems to be, in a lot of cases, that comes from a very works-based outlook, as in, look at what we're doing at this church, as opposed to, and I'm not saying that it's always like this, because there are people who are, this is the ministry that we're doing, and we want people who need this ministry to be here. That makes complete sense, and there's nothing wrong with that if you're coming at it from, people need to know about this. But if it's, well, we have this ministry, we have this ministry, we have this ministry, we got to list all this, we got to put it all up front and center, and look at all the great stuff that we do, and here's our beautiful building and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think the people that I've experienced this struggle with, and I say I've struggled along with them because, they have this desire for things. Really, it comes down to they just want to serve others so much that they lose the forest for the trees, right?
Gotcha.
So they want people to know in the city to know about the Wednesday night video series, right? We have an amazing video series with, let's say it's a Louis Giglio video series that we're going through. We want all the parents to know that we're doing it for the youth. Can you put it on the website, right on the main page?
Right.
It's absolutely noble. It is for sure a noble ministry, a noble cause. It's something that is ministering to these kids, but they're losing the forest they're losing the big picture to try to get this one little detail in there.
Right.
And we talked about story brand was 2 weeks ago, and that's one of the things that Donald Miller talks about is, anytime we're communicating something, we're handing someone a bowling ball. And if we start communicating a lot, we're handing someone multiple bowling balls. And your job as a communicator is to make sure that you have one nice light bowling ball that you hand someone that they can comprehend, that they can use, and that they can handle, and that they can understand, because it's a message.
Right.
But if you start tagging on, hey, Sunday we got this. Hey, Wednesday nights we have this. The kids are going here. Christmas is coming up. We got this too. And don't forget about breakfast. Eventually, they're trying to balance all these bowling balls. And then if you start adding even more on that, by the way, we're disciples who make disciples. And we also have a food pantry. Then you start oiling up, you start buttering those bowling balls so they can't handle it and they drop it for a lighter weight.
Yeah.
And that's how Story Brand kind of expresses that. And it's tough because I've in my experience, I haven't seen it as a look at us. It's a desperation to get the ministry out there because there might be someone that needs it.
Right.
But like Brandon said, there's a communication channel for each of those scenarios.
Exactly.
So in the scenario of membership activities, their membership, from what I understood, their membership is expected to keep a track of the newsletter, open their emails. I'm sure he's emailing his congregation, and to look for in these places for announcements and events.
Right.
But the website is not for them. The website is for the visitors, and that's really what it comes down to. So I don't see it as a look at what we do. I think it's a please come, because we're trying to do some good here and we need the numbers. That's how I've experienced it.
That makes a lot of sense. Maybe I'm just cynical. That's
no.
I'm jaded. The idea that members that he was talking about, how the members know to go to the Facebook page, go to all that makes complete sense. And these individual ministries need to be thinking in those terms as well. And my guess is that at Brandon's church, because they started with this culture from when it was two families in the living room, and that can easily permeate throughout the whole thing as the church grows. The people that are in charge of the ministries, I think, need to be thinking in those terms as well. That even to the point that if the ministry is substantial enough, it needs to have its own Facebook page. As a and like linked out or whatever from the current from the church's Facebook page, so that communication specific to that ministry. If it's a food pantry or if it's something that is dealing, it could easily be its own little micro ministry apart from the church. It should be thought of like that. The MOPS thing. If you got a MOPS group in your church, they need to have like maybe a group or something that is for the people who are in it, so that they can get direct communications. But then announcements go on the Facebook page or go out in the email or something. But these people, from the time they walk in the door, they're trained. Here's where you're going to get all the meat, and here's how we advertise. We're starting a new semester. Come join us. And all these tools that we're teaching and learning about and implementing ourselves and stuff can help spread this message. There's no reason why the local MOPS group or the men's Bible study group or whatever that wants to have more people coming, the men's breakfast that they do once a month or something, there's no reason why they can't be doing Facebook ads and targeting men in this area, in this demographic that identify as Christian. You see what I'm saying? That kind of thing to bring people into that ministry.
Yeah, it's like in our interview with Adam McLaughlin, where he said, people think that if it's not announced on Sunday, that no one's going to come.
Yeah.
Or if they think, I still experience this too. If it's not on social media, people aren't going to know about it.
Right.
And I tell them, I say, social media, if we don't put money behind it, only 10% of our audience is going to see it. And so it's a shift in that thinking.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, it's what's a nice word for ignorance? They just don't understand.
It is ignorance.
Our membership a lot of times doesn't understand that there are ways you can micro communicate with people.
Absolutely.
Texting is a huge thing.
Yep.
Facebook groups is a huge thing because anytime someone posts in the group, everyone in the group gets a ding. So instead of relying on the algorithm, Facebook page algorithm, to serve it up to people, and they might miss it while they're scrolling, they'll actually get a ding. You can send an email to your ministry and tell them, we're having a meeting on Friday night. You don't have to announce it from the stage to 200 people, an announcement that applies to 7 people.
Right.
And you don't have to put it on Facebook and hope people see it and remember it, because if they don't remember it, they're not going to go back to Facebook to find the time. Right. But they will keep an email. They will keep a text. And so it's just that education. And we'll talk about that in our courses in 2018. It's educating people. This is how you micro communicate. Because again, like Adam said, if you start over communicating things that don't apply to people, they're going to tune everything out and they're going to miss everything.
Right. And they're going to be carrying those greasy bowling balls through the buffet line, and through that conversation with their family and stuff. And all of that's going to get dropped by the time they get home.
Exactly. So, Sorry, I accidentally muted myself. I think that's definitely a direction we will be heading in 2018. We'll keep doing the video stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, our first course of 2018 is going to be on live streaming, one aspect of it.
Yep.
But we'll also weave in that communication stuff because that is super important.
Yep.
And eventually it's going to come up. Someone's going to say, can you announce this on the live stream? Can you put a pre-roll ad for the live stream? And it may not fit your strategy.
Right.
So we need to have answers and be prepared for that. So yeah, I think Brandon nailed it on the head. And again, beautiful website, obviously effective website. And I'm so excited we had him on here. That was a dream come true for me. Actually, we do have a resource called the 7 Church Website Essentials. And I can tell you this is that Brandon's website, his church's website, Grace Hill's website, and in fact, many of the websites on the top 25 church website list that Brady has, they hit all of these essentials, these 7 church website essentials. So this is actually a guide that we put together. Dave's been doing websites for I don't know how many years, and I've been doing church websites for the last 10 years, and I've discovered, kind of what works and what doesn't work. And if you feel like your website is working against you, if someone says, well, I saw the website, but I didn't think I'd fit in, or you don't hear, really what you should be hearing from your new members is, I saw the website and I thought this was a place I could fit in, or I saw the website and it looked like they had something for me, or I saw you get that's kind of what got me into the freelancing of church websites environment, is because I was hearing this consistently from our new members, and I thought, man, I need to share this. And one pastor brought me on to do their website, which gave me the confidence to start asking, hey, do you have a website? What's it doing for you? And something I always hear is, I feel like it's a time sink, a time sink and a money sink. And like Brandon said, your website is not an expense, it's an investment.
Right.
So if you want to make your investment smart, you need to make sure you invested in the right thing. So go to the website, betterchurchwebsite.com. That's betterchurchwebsite.com, no S, betterchurchwebsite.com. And there you can get our free guide of 7 church website essentials. This is going to help boost your website to actually speak to potential visitors, and it's going to help you communicate things to get them in the door, or get their contact info so you can nurture the relationship using email, like we talked about. Nurture them to come into the church, because even if they decide not to come the following Sunday, you have their email, because 2 of these essentials actually talk about getting their email, and you can nurture them and say, hey, by the way, this Sunday we're starting a new sermon series. Do you have questions about creation? We have the Awana Carnival today. Do you have any kids? And you can use that email to nurture them to actually make a visit in person. So that's over at betterchurchwebsite.com. You can finally know what's going to make your website work for you instead of you working on it. It's going to actually turn into a visitor generating machine. So again, that's betterchurchwebsite.com.
Fantastic. And it's a really good resource. It's I like the way we did it was we have this free resource for folks, but our members actually have access to a full course. You want to take a minute and just sort of go over what our membership, if you are a Church Training Academy member, what kind of stuff you're going over in that full course.
Yeah, so in the full course, we call it the Definitive Church Website Formula.
Yep.
Because I am the kind of person that I feel like I have to spend the money and do the trial and error so our members don't have to.
Right.
Because I have spent hundreds of dollars on platforms and plugins, and I have tried a lot of things that either broke my website or didn't look right. And I feel like I have to pass that on. So
you need
this
to,
is
because
actually the Definitive Church Website Formula, because I have not actually seen, and I haven't seen everything, but I have not seen a layout, a formula for church websites that actually goes page by page and what you need to communicate with your potential visitors. Now, this is a site. This is a building platform, not platform. This is the foundations of what it looks like to build a website like Brandon's that actually communicates to visitors. So in this course, we actually go through figuring out who your website is for, because that's going to impact what you communicate. And then actually what to put in the basic pages that every church website has: the homepage, the staff page, what a ministry page should look like, a landing page, what that is and how to use it to increase your event signups, even the giving page. Because a lot of church websites right now, you click on the give button and it either takes you just to a credit card form right away and you're like, whoa, what am I giving to? Or it takes you to a cheesy button that just says give here. And it's like, well, I just click give. Now I have to click another button.
Right.
And you're not really encouraging people what they're giving to. I don't know if I'm giving to the pastor's salary or to the new fountain out back, So we actually go into that too. And then a couple different strategies like, what fonts to use or how many fonts to use, colors. And then as we go along the course, you actually watch me build a website. I start off with a blank slate, and then I actually build the website as we go through the course to where it's an actual fully functioning website. So that is part of our membership as well. And then, of course, also with the membership, you get access to our CTA Insiders, where as you build your website, you can share it and you'll get advice or tips or, hey, this color looks bad or this word's misspelled or it doesn't work on this phone. You'll actually have a mastermind of people around you, including me and Dave, that can give you feedback to actually help you further accomplish your goal. So you're not going in blindly.
Yep, that's right. So anyway, that's what happens when you, the kind of stuff you get when you join Church Training Academy. So this has been a really good show, a lot of really good information. I hope it's been helpful to you guys. I hope y'all have been able to get some good info out of this. I really want you guys to take to heart what Brandon was saying and the things we've been discussing here, as well as the things that we've talked about in weeks past. We're kind of we're kind of hitting all these little core things that take some mind shifting if you've been doing it the old way as it is for so many years. But you can see it's really effective. I mean, Brandon's church has gone from 4 to like over 400. I mean, that's pretty huge for a church plant to grow that quickly and have that many people that are on board for this same focused mission. That's a big deal. And that many people pointed through the power of Christ on the same mission, on the same path like that can literally change the world. And we saw it done with 12, So, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments. And we really appreciate you guys being here. Take what you've learned today and go change some lives.